The hijab, actually, the hijab that she was wearing is like the hijab that our sisters wear. I'll take it, sorry. So I'll take it. So it wasn't a pocket Quran. Just let me make it clear. It's just I had some skills.
Halo Sobat Agar. Seorang imam masjid di Pearland, Texas, Amerika Serikat yang juga menjadi salah satu pengurus komunitas muslim Spanyol membagikan sebuah pengalaman tak terlupakannya ketika awal mula dirinya mengenal Islam. Pria ini bernama Daniel Abdullah Hernandez. Ia berasal dari Puerto Rico, sebuah negara yang terletak di sebelah timur Republik Dominika di Karibia bagian timur laut. Daniel membagikan pengalamannya pada sebuah forum muslim Amerika ketika ia mendapatkan hidayah iman Islam. Dalam sesi di mana ia bicara di podium, Daniel mengungkapkan satu hal yang menjadi rahasia awal mula dirinya tertarik dengan Islam. Hal tersebut berasal dari Al-Quran yang dulu dia curi dengan niat untuk diberikan kepada temannya, namun justru malah mengantarkannya kepada kebenaran Islam.
First of all, I was blessed to be born from a mother who was formerly a nun. And she decided she had some questions that were unanswered. So she decided to leave the convent. She used to teach 50 students, 50 girls in the convent, and I have some pictures of them which really impressed me. Which the hijab, actually, the hijab that she was wearing is like the hijab that our sisters wear. With the same style, with the bottom white piece and the black outer piece. I was like, wow, you know. But when I was in high school, I got involved in the gang life as well. I'm not gonna say the name of the gang because it's a big gang, and maybe those people that didn't know me back in the days, they might, you know, out of ignorance, you know, take my life. And I have too much, you know, in my plate right now to take care of, which is serving the Muslim youth and doing da'wah, etc., that I don't want to put myself at risk. But when I was in this gang, I had a friend who actually was a valedictorian, but he was raised in a shelter. So one time he needed a place to stay, and I told my mom, you know, this guy is a good guy, man. He likes to read and so on. Why don't you let him stay in my house? My mom said, all right. So he stayed in my house and he brought a box of books. And in this box of books, I saw the autobiography of Malcolm X. So when I was involved in this with this brother, you know, this friend of mine, or this brother from the gang, we went to a library. And as we got the maximum amount of books that we could check out, we walking out and we came across the Quran, right? And my friend said, oh man, I want to read the Quran, but I can't check it out. I already checked out the books and so on. So he's like, I'm like, you know what? You want it? I'll take it, sorry. So I'll take it. So it wasn't a pocket Quran. Just let me make it clear. It's just I had some skills. So I ended up taking the big Abdullah Yusuf Ali with the Arabic, English, and commentary. And I took it from the library. And then, just for my friend, this because I was real, so I had to do it for him. You know, he wanted to read it. So then he left my house and he left the Quran. So the only thing Islamic in my house is the Quran. So then a year took place where two of my close friends from this group who were real, they got killed by same gang members. I was with them on a Sunday, and the next day I see them on the news. They got killed and they got stepped on their faces. So I was like, you know, if these guys were real and this happened to them, it can happen to me. So I said, so then I totally lost trust in the only people I used to trust, that I supposedly would have given my life for, that I sacrificed jobs and so on for them. And I said, if they did that to my friends, they could do it to me. So I said, nah. So then I'm like, I lost trust in all human beings. I mean, my parents, I trust them, but they didn't have the experience of the streets, so they couldn't get me out of it. So then I'm like, I'm looking. And sometimes my friends used to do things that they didn't tell me. So I end up coming out of my house, all of a sudden get snatched up by the police. You robbed the house. I'm like, well, I just woke up. You know that, you dropped out, you're not in school. What time you wake up? If you're hanging out at night, you wake up like at 1, 2, 12, right? So I'm like, I just woke up. I said, nah, get in the car. So it was like an everyday thing. My 3 thoughts were, am I gonna die today? Am I gonna catch a disease today? Or is my mother gonna get hurt because of me, because of the label that I carry? And at that time, I was looking, and I decided one day in the afternoon, that time I woke up early. So I decided to go to church. And I went to church, and I'm like, you know what? I was asking God for guidance, I used to bow down in my mom's room, and I used to say, God, you created me, and you know what I need better than myself. Choose for me the right way, and I will not look back. I'll leave everything behind. And at that time, I had a music contract. I had my 12 songs already written down, and I was going to record the album. And I was in that stage of making a choice. So I decided to look for guidance, and I remembered that I had the Quran. I said, oh, I remember this Quran. I heard that this Quran has wisdom. And actually the guy that recommended my friend this Quran is doing 35 years to life for killing those 2 friends that I had. So Allah used him to tell him that the Quran has wisdom, and I ended up with it. So as I'm reading the Quran, I come across إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. At a time when I was saying, who am I going to ask for help? I don't trust nobody. And then it said, you alone do we worship, and you alone do we ask for help. I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to only worship God, and I'm only going to ask Him for help. So then I continue reading the Quran, and it said Allah. And I said, I'm not used to saying Allah, I'm going to say God. So I could just continue reading. And I continue reading the Quran. Whenever I found the command, I began to do it. The Quran said, read the Quran in Fajr as witness. I will wake up when everybody in my house is sleeping. Quiet between me and God. And I used to read the Quran for a good hour, close the Quran, go to sleep, and feel like I accomplished something. Because it was a secret between me and God. Then my parents wake up, everybody gets ready to go to work, and I already did something. They're just waking up. So I kept doing this for months. And then I read another ayah, Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Prescribed for you is fasting. So I began to fast. But I wasn't lucky as you. I didn't know about Maghrib. Alright? So I didn't know how to fast. So, and Omar, I'm sorry, man. I'm not trying to step. I'm not a comedian either. It's just natural. But honestly, I began to fast until I felt pain. Because I said, I am not a hypocrite. I'm going to fast until I feel what the poor people feel. And when I feel that pain that I can't resist, then I will eat. Because I know my refrigerator is filled with food. So what's the point of fasting? So I did that. Then one ayah about giving charity, a verse about giving charity. So I actually used to rock DKNY, and I decided one day to give away all my, more than $3,000 worth of clothes, all DKNY. I put in bags. My mom was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm gonna give it in charity. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah. And I wasn't taking no advice. I was just, the Quran said, give charity, sacrifice that which you love, and I was just doing it. So I grabbed these bags and I went to the nearby shelter and I put it in front of the door, and I was learning about doing things in secret between me and God. So I just rang the bell and I ran. And I used to know how to run and hide and stuff like that. So I dipped, the dip, right? So I dipped, and alhamdulillah, but the feeling that I got when I'm walking home was amazing. It was amazing. So after 9 months of reading the Quran and practicing everything that I read in it with the commentary, I said to myself, I'm Muslim. So I went to the masjid that day and I met the Imam. And the Imam asked me, so, how do you learn about the Quran? Where do you get the Quran? And I said, I was blunt. I stole it. He said, what? I said, I swear, I never seen an Imam run so fast. He said, you gotta give it back. I said, I'll give it back unless I get the same copy. He said, this was my only friend. You think I'm gonna give it back? This is the one that helped me get rid of my addiction to alcohol. This is the one that helped me learn how to be patient when I didn't have patience. This is the one that only gave me good advice. You think I'm gonna give it back? Give me the same copy and I'll give it back. And if I don't get the same copy, then I'll buy this one. So then he ran in the library and he said, is this one, this one, this one? I said, yeah, it's this one. Then he gave me the same copy. So, alhamdulillah, in the process of learning about Islam and going to the mosque, I began going home in the morning after Fajr. And I used to find my mom in the kitchen. And finding my mom in the kitchen, I used to read the Quran there. And sometimes I would find something interesting about Jesus and Mary. And I said, Mom, can I share with you something? And she was like, okay. So I began reading to her the Quran. And it became a daily thing. Every day after Fajr in English, I would just read to her the Quran. Then, alhamdulillah, I got married. And my mom comes to me one day and she's like, I miss your reading of the Quran. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And a lot of the questions that I had that made me leave the convent were answered through your reading of the Quran. And I was like, so you believe in what you heard? She's like, yeah. And I want to be Muslim. So then, alhamdulillah, my mom became Muslim 2 years after me.
Itulah seputar datangnya hidayah iman Islam yang tak terduga dialami oleh seorang pria bernama Daniel, yang kini justru menjadi imam masjid di salah satu kota di Amerika Serikat.